Thrawn's Revenge 3.1 has been released, and in this video we're going to do a quick rundown of what's changed. The changelog will also be available on the Steam Workshop page, the Discord server, and within the mods files. A link to the Steam Workshop page as well as the Discord can be found in the description, along with a link to an instructional video for installing and running the mod. While we will be uploading a separately downloadable version of the mod to mod database in the coming weeks, once we've done any hotfixes, the mod will still only be compatible with the Steam version of Empire at War, not disk or GOG for reasons that are entirely beyond our control. Steam will auto-download the update if you are subscribed already, so if you would like to continue saves from the 3.0 version that you already have going, please download the backup of 3.0 from mod database to continue those. Rather than focusing on significant content expansions in 3.1, much like with Fall of the Republic, we've been focusing more on redoing some of our backend systems, especially how the era system works in the code. In terms of what this means in-game, this should improve performance in some areas and clean up some of the presentation. But a lot of these changes have been geared more towards making further changes easier for us to work in as we go through the next versions. The biggest in-game difference from the era reworks is that you're now able to select 2 additional eras to start in, Isard and Karnor Jax, which previously you could only reach through in-game progressions. So now if you choose to start in Era 2, which used to be Thrawn, that is now Isard with Thrawn moved to 3, Palpatine moved to 4, Karnor is Era 5, 6 is Dala, and 7 is Pelion. The galactic map has been appropriately edited for each of these starts with proper starting forces, so that's 2 new setups for people to try out if you've played a lot of the progressives in previous versions. On the galactic level, we've also gone through and shifted around some of the planets and updated some of the visuals to help smooth out issues with planets being too close together in some cases, and making the map a lot easier to navigate and read, helping the planetary information stand out a bit more than it did before. All planets and maps have also had their previews updated, which are the images that come from the maps, which should allow every planet to properly use the base layout planner, which didn't work for some planets before. If you do find any stragglers where it doesn't end up working, please do let us know. The most obvious change you'll probably notice, though, is the introduction of the new user interface. In addition to the complete facelift by Shine here, including unique skins for the New Republic and Empire, the information at the top left of the screen has been cleaned up and expanded a bit to include extra information on resources, which had formerly been a bit too difficult to access when you had to go into the dedicated menu to see what was there. It'll take a little bit to get used to the new layout, but we've found that once you are used to it, it really helps bring all the information together and helps draw attention to some stuff that used to be really easy to miss in the top left, since that's the only area that we have to add new information with the limitations that Empire at War has. So give it a chance and I think you'll really enjoy it. New and redone units haven't been as big of a focus here as in prior releases or upcoming releases, but there's still been quite a bit done in that department along with some other art. For general art assets, we've redone most of the low-orbit planet assets, which should help space battles look much better. This has so far just been the planet models themselves. In the future, we'll be going through and updating all of the lighting setups on space maps now that we don't need to use certain specific settings that tended to make the rest of the battles look worse to help the planets. So that should improve a lot over the next release as well. Rampaging Rhino has also gone through and started adding new death clones for several units and structures. These are basically the animations that play when a ship dies instead of exploding into nothing right away. There are dozens or hundreds of units in the mod, so it'll take some time to get everything done for that. But things like the shipyards, the Golans, and a few other units now should have proper death clones, and again, that'll be continued to be fleshed out over the next few releases. Along with these explosion animations, a lot of the explosion particles have been redone, so when those ships are blowing up and hardpoints are blowing up, things should look much better in general. The models for the Imperial Escort Carrier, the Victory and Imperial 2 frigates, Immobilizer 418, Vindicator, Enforcer, Empress Station, and all 3 bulwarks have been redone from scratch, and texture updates have also been applied to the AT-AP, the AT-TE, the Star Galleon, the Arquitens, the Strike Cruiser, and the CC-7700, so all those units should be looking a lot better as well. On the new content side, the CSA has received 3 new units in this release, including the Class 1 defense droid on the ground, and the Bulwark 2 and Eddie Lighter in space. The New Republic has received the Mon Mothma Star Destroyer, which is a variant kind of between the Dominator and the ISD-1, which is available to them as a research option when you have Viki Shesh as Chief of State. So Viki, you can choose to become your Chief of State on Kuat in the later eras, and then once she's elected, if she gets elected, you can research the Mon Mothma Star Destroyer. When Cien Tev gets elected Chief of State, you'll actually get access to the Bulwark 3 as well, which was formerly a unique CSA unit, but is still pretty niche for the New Republic, and that locks the Home 1 type if you do have him as Chief of State. A new frigate type, the MC-30A, has been added to the forces the New Republic can receive on revolts as well, so another pretty niche unit, but there is a chance for that to show up now too. Finally, all factions will have access to 2 new influence units on Bakura. At 7 influence or higher, the Namana class light cruiser can be built, and at 10 influence you can get the Bakura class destroyer. Canderous assault tanks from the base game Zan Consortium have been added to Mandalore at 7 influence as well. There's been some attention to the CSA on the hero side, where they now have a new economic hero, Riga Licenzor, and 2 space combat heroes, Weplin with the ISD-1 Wayland, and Brawlix in the Dauntless class Utani, totally not a reference to anything. Zinja's Pirate Force heroes have been updated a fair bit as well, with some additional options. On the New Republic side, Lando now has access to the Liberator or Allegiance ISDs in certain situations too. As I mentioned earlier, Viki Shesh is a new Chief of State option with the Mon Mothma class research, and Tev gives the Bulwark 3, but some other Chief of State changes have been made as well. Boris Phalia was pretty much the universal rush choice because of his bonus with all division and the Bothan Assault Cruiser research. So the Bothan Assault Cruiser research has been given an Era 2 requirement before it can be researched, and Borsk now disables Admiral Akbar as a command staff choice for his tenure as Chief of State. This should give him some more clear trade-offs, and there are obviously the other changes to other Chiefs of State which make them more attractive as well. For Navik the Red, a Chief of State option who kind of is intended to buff defensive options, he gives discounts to defensive structures. Now that discount should apply to the main star base levels as well, which should make him a lot more attractive for defensive or turtling players. On the space side, there have been several tweaks and fixes to various units, but more noticeably the MC-90, Viscount, and Executor rigs have been updated with changed weapon placements. The Viscount in particular was struggling in a lot of cases where it shouldn't have before, so in that case it's more of a clear streamlining. This should help a fair bit there, and markers for space structures on all maps have been shifted to more sensible and useful locations. Accuracy for all turbo lasers against bombers have been halved, which should also help the bombers survive a lot better when making attack runs. And there's going to be further changes to fighters and bombers coming in Point 2, but we'll talk about that later. On ground, the orbital bombardment area of effect has been increased a bit to line up with the particle. So the actual explosion that you'll see hasn't changed, but the kind of hitbox for the explosion now matches up to the visuals a lot better. Infantry blasters have had their effectiveness against vehicle armor types reduced by half, which should make infantry spam less effective than it was. And another somewhat oppressive tactic was spam of air speeders, particularly the V-Wing for the New Republic and the Air Striker for the Empire of the Hand. The main problem there was the power to weapons ability, which let them pretty much wipe anything out. So that has been switched out with an engine boost ability. They can no longer use power to weapons, and I believe the scales have been adjusted a bit, at least for the Air Striker, which makes them a bit easier to hit. There have been some other tweaks to the Empire of the Hand ground vehicles which should smooth out some of their issues, but there will still be a full rework of the Empire of the Hand ground units in a future release. On the AI side, some improvements have been made to help both their performance and to smooth out some of the annoying parts of some battles. The situations in which they retreat was a big focus here, where in space battles they should no longer be retreating if there are heroes, or they're less likely to want to retreat if there are heroes with dead engines that are still alive, so they won't want to kill off their heroes that way. And on ground, they should be more willing to retreat when there are just a couple units left kind of scattered around the map, or just some empty structures, which helps stop ground battles from being too drawn out and really helps the flow of them. So this has been far from an exhaustive list. There is the full list of changes, or a more broad overview, in the text version, which I mentioned at the start, but that should cover most of the major changes in the Point 1 release. A lot of hard work has gone into this cycle for all the mods, so I want to say thank you to the rest of the team for everything they've done the last few months. Additionally, we want to thank all of you for your support of the mod. We hope you enjoy the release, and we have some pretty massive plans for the Point 2 cycle, which is looking to potentially be our biggest update, and I'm really excited about that, so stay tuned for more. If you want to keep track of updates as they happen, I do preview playthroughs on this channel, which you can subscribe to see as they happen, but there's also a Discord server where updates and early looks at upcoming content get posted. There's links to those in the description. Pox and Inertial are also in the process of making a new website for the mod, which will be used for mod news, as well as information on all mod content, including things like ship stats. So hopefully we'll have some news on that front soon. I'm sure there will be a few issues that we have to work out with the release. That's always what happens. I will be kind of on for the next few hours, making any hot fixes that need to happen, and then we'll keep an eye on that as we go throughout the next couple weeks. But hope you enjoy the mod. Thank you for watching. See you next time.